The tiebreaks were 4 rapid games. In the first rapid game, Liren played d4, Nepo played knight f6, and after knight f3 d5, we have c3. And here comes c5. Ding decides to take the pawn, leading to complicated positions. Bishop e3, bishop e7, g3, knight c6, bishop e2, and castles b4. So Ding holds onto the pawn, making it hard for Nepomniachtchi to get it back. But Nepo can go for the center with e4, e5 with support. So he goes knight g4 first, and after bishop d4, here comes queen c7, preparing e5. So it looks pretty bad for white now, isn't it? What is Ding's idea? Ding's idea is after castles and e5, Ding plays h3, attacking the knight. So that if bishop gets taken, he gets a knight as well. And now the whole pawn chain crumbles here for white. However, after takes, a3, bishop f6, rook c1, another exchange on c3, the knight has to move. Ding gets the sender pawn, the d5 pawn. But then Nepo gets a g pawn, so material-wise, it's all equal. Knight g5, pawn h6 and knight e4. The knight is heading to the beautiful d6 square. Nice outpost. Rook e8, pawn e3, and now rook e5, queen back, rook d8 and knight d6. So white got what he wanted, but Nepo has got nice ideas here. If the knight can get in and if the queen can get in somehow quickly. He starts with rook h5, a kind of coffee house attack on Ding's king. Rook b1, Ding just goes attacking on b7. But here, knight e5, the game is now pretty intense. Because if you take that pawn, the knight f3 is incoming. And if you take bishop takes, mate is unstoppable on h1. So Ding is in pretty serious waters now. He finds the right defense, e4, opening up the rook. So if knight f3 takes, bishop takes, rook is there. It's no longer possible. And now b6 by Nepo, attacking the pin. And after takes, guess what Nepo played? Nepo just takes back, leaving his queen hanging, but you can't take the queen because of knight f3 again. Even if you move the king, d2 falls. So it's impossible to take the queen. He goes knight b5. And now the game is pretty even. After the exchange of queens, bishop f3, another exchange, everything is equal. Rook b5, rook d1. So there's a pin on the knight and f4 is incoming. Because if you go f4 now, there is rook d2. And if the king goes back, there is repetition. If king tries getting closer, then black would get the advantage. Because after king e3, knight g4, king f3, there is h5, threatening rook f2 checkmate. So the king will have to go back and forth after rook d2, king g1. Which is why Ding didn't play f4, Ding played knight d5. Now rook h1, knight check, king h7, and here rook takes knight was played. You can't take back because the other rook hangs, but even then the rook will take the knight. But so that is also a draw. So Nepo just repeats with the rook, and if the king goes up, then rook takes rook is an exchange up for black. So Ding has to go back, and now it became a draw by repetition. That was game one. In game two, Nepomniachtchi played the rule opus, which he has played a lot in the classical section. After a6, bishop back, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, he plays the anti-martial attack d3. And now b5, bishop back, and d6. a4, striking at the b pawn, bishop d7 and h3. Castles, bishop e3, knight a5, and bishop e2. Here, Ding decides to muddy the waters with pawn takes a4. After bishop d2, knight goes back, and knight c3, white gets back the pawn without any trouble. This opening will feature in the fourth game as well. Knight takes pawn. And now knight d4, opening up an attack on the knight. Bishop c4, defending the knight with the rook. And now c6, preparing d5 break. Takes, and bishop f4. Bishop e6. White's position is very comfortable here. Rook e1, a5, and now queen f3. Rook b7, that's a very nice move because d5 was not possible yet because of the pin. But now after rook b7, d5 is in the air. But Nepo plays e5, knight d5. If you take, the position would be very comfortable for white. There's an attack on the c6 pawn as well in that case. So which is why Ding's only option is knight d5. Position is still very comfortable for Nepo here. Bishop g3 is an option. Keeping the bishop on an active square is also an option, but he goes takes, and that leads to mass exchanges. queen e4, knight f4, and queen e5. Another exchange here of the queens, full exchanges, and after rook b4, you can play d3, but that'll give this nice square to the knight if it can land there. He goes just rook c5, pawn d3, binding, takes, and the rook has to take here, but then the b2 pawn falls. He goes, so if you take on b2 directly, that will lead to a slightly uncomfortable endgame because the rook endgame can be a pleasant one for white after rook takes pawn, which is why Ding's idea was knight e5, very accurate because he's getting the c4 pawn instead of the b pawn. Now rook c7 takes, and after knight c5, the a pawn and the b pawn just get exchanged, and here it is totally equal. But Nepo tries a little bit. Rook f4 and f3. Pawn h6, rook goes back. Knight b4, rook d6, rook f5, rook b7, and now it's basically another exchange of it, but Nepo goes for more. He's trying to attack the knight, trap the knight maybe. Knight f6. So that is a way to ensure the knight gets off the board. Takes, and it's a double rook endgame with 3 pawns each, where the players make a draw by just repeating moves. Game 3 was a pretty short draw. It was knight f3, d5, g3. So Ding decides to fianchetto's bishop, and now he fianchetto's the other bishop as well. Takes, and bishop b2. So it's like a rapid opening that he is playing here. It's English. It is transposed to the English opening. Now knight c6, d4, takes, and takes, bishop f6. So a lot of exchanges coming up. Knight f4 is basically ensuring that queens and the bishops get exchanged. Bishop for the knight. So takes, and takes. What is left is 2 rooks and the 2 minor pieces. Bishop f6, knight c4, rook b8. So the problem for black is a slight problem. He can't develop his bishop that easily. But he can play rook d8 and then bishop d7. Yeah. He goes knight e5, rook d8, and takes, still can't develop the bishop. He plays bishop e7, knight d7. The small edge, just a photographic edge, it's not really there because king f8 and then king e8 is coming. Bishop takes. He gets a pawn, but because the material is so less, difficult to draw this. And now rook d2, and it's an opposite color bishops with double pawns for white. So there's no real way for white to push. So they just repeat like this. And here comes the 4th game of the rapid tiebreak. In the 4th game, Nepo starts with the Rulocus, just like the second game. We get the same position. A4 was played and h3, and the same situation has happened. Ding again takes on a4, knight c3, and here rook b8. In the second game, Ding had played bishop d2. And when the knight went back, he played knight c3 and picked back the pawn. And then Ding played knight d4. Here, Nepo plays knight c3. After rook b8, he just goes bishop b1. A very interesting idea, but the bishop stays passive for a long time. This could easily backfire. Rook queen e8, defending the pawn, and now d3. You can't really take the a5 knight would hang. So c5, and now knight takes. So Nepo gets back the pawn, but this is a terrible piece as of now. It's stuck behind the wall Nepo created for his bishop. Knight c6, a5, knight d2. The bishop is still a bad piece, so black is slightly better. Bishop e6 and knight c4. Takes. No, he doesn't take. He plays d5. Now takes, and bishop d2. So Nepo is in troubled waters here because of the bishop. He's basically playing a piece down. And now takes. Ding helps him a little bit by unraveling his pieces. He could have gone knight f4 in this position. But yeah, knight takes, bishop takes, and now takes, bishop d8, defending his pawn again. Bishop d2. The a pawn is weak, and black is defending it. And there's ideas of bishop c7 and queen coming in. So this is a comfortable position for Ding. Bishop c7, and now finally c3. The bishop comes out if white can get d4. Pawn f5. So this is that moment of the game where Nepo is under pressure, because if you look at this, black has all sorts of ideas. F4, f3 is in the air, e4 is in the air, and then queen g6, queen d6 also coming. Rook at f6, h6, h6 not possible. G6 is also possible. So a lot of different ideas here for black. So Nepo plays accurately. He plays rook e1, rook d8, keeping the tempo. Rook a2, defending the bishop in case of an e4 break, already defending his bishop. Queen g6, queen e2, and now queen d6. What does Nepo do? e4 is a threat. He plays the g3 move. It was a necessary move to stop the play for black. We're weakening the king, but what else to do? Rook e8 and now queen f3. Nepo is asking Ding to play e4. He's tempting Ding to go e4 with tempo. That will open up his bishop. And Ding takes the bait. He plays e4, takes. He doesn't take knight e5. Here, Ding thought that black should be better, right? Because knight jump into d3 or f3 if the queen moves away and then black's better. But the queen goes to g2, probably missed by Ding. And now after knight d3, he can take, but then white would anyway take back. And if you played takes directly, still queen g2. So this is what they missed. And after bishop takes, the white's position is completely good. Rook is defending the bishop. So here Ding decides to go knight e5, queen moves, and he can take the pawn, but the position would still be better for white. So he goes for knight d3, another exchange. So material wise, it's 2 pawns up for Nepo right now, but c4 pawn's hanging and f5 is also hanging. So we have an exchange, and now he takes the c4 pawn. Nepo is the one pushing here because rook a1 takes, material is equal, bishop d2, but white's pieces are in harmony. Queen's active, the bishop is loose over there a little bit, and now rook comes in because the a pawn is not really a danger. So far away, we can't really push that far. And now bishop e3, attacking the c5 pawn. If you take here, Ding can take here, then queen e4 check will be coming, and after g6, rook b1, things will be a little bit uncomfortable because the king would be weak. So he goes bishop e5, attacking c3. I'm anyway getting c3, so let me just wait, says Ding. Queen goes back. Nepo tries to go for the win. He could have also played queen takes and gone into a completely drawn endgame where white would be in no trouble, even though there's an outside pass pawn, material is equal. Instead, Nepo pushes queen e8, attacking the bishop. Bishop takes on c3, attacking the rook. But then rook c1, a pin on Ding's bishop. Ding is okay because if bishop, okay, he plays rook f6. The rook was kind of angry. Rook c3 was a threat. The rook moves. Probably that was the only move to make it equal because everything else, wherever the rook moves, bishop d2 was coming. But then rook went to f6. Now you can't really do anything with bishop d2 because of queen d4 getting out of the pin, and queen f2 will happen. And now queen e2. Nepo was just keeping his queen active, trying to create some play. Queen e2 was played, and now queen d5. Bishop went to b4. So Ding is right now up by a pawn, but black's king is not safe, which is why white's the only one pushing here. You can take bishop takes c5 is possible for white because f2 will be guarded by the bishop. Queen e4, king moves, queen d5, king moves. Here Nepo is going for the draw. He's okay with the draw. He does not see any other way to continue. So this is where Ding plays rook g6. He did not repeat a third time. Everyone, including Nepo and the commentators, were getting ready for the blitz tiebreaks. But then Ding plays rook g6, surprising everybody. He goes into a self pin, correctly evaluating that this is not a real problem. And with just 1.5 minutes on the clock, this really threw Nepo off. He was mentally ready for the blitz, and now he has to fight it out. This is Ding going for the win. Queen f5, pawn c4. Nepo has to think really hard and deep because the c4 pawn is becoming a problem. Pawn is just pushing. And if you play h4, black can just play h5. So where is the play for black? There's only one move here, queen f4, which keeps it in the balance. But Nepo plays pawn h4. Now just queen d3. The queen lands on the diagonal, making the white queen get out of there. And now the c pawn can push rook f6. Queen moves. Pawn c3. This is the world championship going out of Nepo's hands. Rook d1, queen g6. And after queen c8, just rook c6. Queen a8. So here if c2, the idea is to go rook d8 and go for some desperate play, giving up a piece. That was actually fine and winning for Ding. but Ding goes for rook d6, not giving any counter play. After takes, he's still winning because he's up a pawn, and that pawn is on c3. Queen check, queen blocks, and after queen c4, just queen b1, king moves, and pawn a4. The other pawn runs forward. Here, bishop d4 is played. Nepo still holding on. You can actually go bishop into g7 here. That's so difficult to play because if king g7, there's queen c7 and repetition is possible. But what if after bishop g7, the pawn just pushes? Then you can force him to take the bishop. So this was an idea here for Nepo. Nepo could also play h5. The plan being queen f7 is the idea. Because if h5 and if black pushes here with a2, queen f7 actually wins. Because how do you stop the mate? You can't. So this is a cheeky idea, like playing h5. But all that he has to see with the 30 seconds on his clock. And Nepo did not. Nepo was completely in panic mode here. He just plays queen c7, which just loses. Queen f7 was a try, but if you go queen f7, black would just go queen g6. That is why it was important to play h5. But Nepo goes for queen c7. Now Ding has no problem because he just goes back to g6, not allowing h5, and now pawn c2 with the support of the queen. And after bishop e3, just bishop goes back. He just needs to get the bishop to b2. He goes king g2 and now pawn h5, stopping white from playing h5. King f1, but just bishop e5. Pawn g4 takes and h5. He gets h5 somehow, but the queen just moves. Queen e4 and g3. Everything wins here. He just goes g3 and after f4, just pawn a2. One accurate move. And if you take the bishop, the pawn promotes. Either way, the pawn promotes. So Nepo is gone here. He accepts his fate, queen a2, and after bishop takes, Nepo just resigns. And Ding becomes the new FIDE world champion. And it's all down to his willingness to go for more in this position. This is where he won the world championship basically. This one moment where after queen e4, they are going for repetition. But then Ding says, no, I'm going for a little bit more here, Mr. Nepo. And he went for more and he won the world championship with that fourth rapid game.